Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Conversations in Courage. We're here for part two with Eliza Nimon. And for those of you who were here last time, welcome back. And for those of you who aren't, welcome for the first time. To start, Eliza, can you maybe just re-ground us on some of the things that we talked about last time, what you're birthing with the Unfold method, and then we'll go from there.
Totally. Yeah. I'm so happy to be back with you guys. I know at the end we're like, okay, I guess we're just going to schedule part two because everything was flowing. Um, I'm in the process of kind of rebranding. I've been teaching Pilates and holistic wellness for over 17 years, but I have just recently rebranded to, it's called the Unfold Method with Eliza by Eliza Nimon. And it's basically because I mentioned last time that I consider myself a Pilates instructor, but more than that, I consider myself a holistic wellness professional. And so within the Unfold method, I really wanted to hash out kind of what I mean by that. And my approach is to essentially look at the bigger picture. Most of my clients and most of the people I work with are people who are in it for the long game, right? They're looking for a longevity practice. They're coming because they're injured and they're looking for a better approach moving forward, which Pilates does a great job of, by the way. But the Unfold method is about looking at myofascial patterns in the body. So I use things like rolling the foam roller therapy balls, and I look at gait patterns and various things. And then I focus on strategic stretching and strengthening, via the Pilates method, which is all about core control, building strength from the inside, understanding how breath fuels our efficient movement. So we get sometimes really, really nano in these sessions where we're really drilling down to that stuff, but that's usually just the foundation of it. So we're kind of laying the foundation, we're clearing away, I like to call it cleaning the slate when I'm teaching people about what fascia is, and how it supports us, how it kind of shapes us and helps us to transfer energy, movement, and just kind of it's a lot about learning our patterns, So that's one of the probably the biggest kind of differentiating factors I think between the type of style of Pilates that I teach, and that my method encapsulates.
I
Right.
I'm so lucky at this between last recording and now, as you both know, but our listeners don't know, I have started reformer training on
So exciting.
on the road to my own greatness, whatever that looks like. But I find that this gives me just an even greater window into what it is, not just you do, but like what you could potentially do with people. Like it's very, very exciting because Pilates is it's got this restorative piece that is literally like injury prevention and sort of healing from injuries. And you could go from PT to Pilates.
Mhm.
But it also, as I learned in your class on Tuesday, it's freaking hard, man. Like there's these muscles that I would imagine that I would be using, but clearly I'm not because I could barely hold my leg up for 8 counts. So like
Laughing with you, not at you, of
oh
course.
yes,
Right.
yes. You were very kind. You're like, you're doing a great job, sweetie. But for people who kind of literally just because Pilates is exploding right now. And so
Mhm.
for people who were looking for kind of like not just the way in, but perhaps if people are hesitant, like, what do I need? Could this help with prenatal, postnatal? What kinds of injuries could be like, I don't want to say healed, but managed, maybe? I don't know. Is it truly for any person, any body? Could you be going through chemo and get on a reformer? What are the limitations or even the what's expansive about it?
Wow.
I know,
Okay.
sorry.
So, so, um, so first off, no, you would not be doing chemo and doing Pilates, just for clarification there. I know where you were going with that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
kind of like what are the kind of extreme kind of ends of the spectrum where Pilates kind of fits in, if I'm understanding you correctly. So Pilates has a lot of range. So you can have more basic types of Pilates, which is basically about mind-body connection. You learn how to use the reformer. The teacher knows the basic structure, for example, that Joseph Pilates taught. That's how I started. So there's like classical Pilates that are basically the exercises that Joseph Pilates himself. And in case people don't know, Joseph Pilates, a man, founded contrology, which is basically what he deemed the way of kind of utilizing spring tension, resistance, body awareness, and creating this kind of really deep mind to body connection. He was a very sick child, so he actually trained himself back to health. So return to health. I have his book somewhere right nearby me. I was just looking for it. I always kind of have it nearby me. It's just like this very comforting thing. But I mean, he's crazy too, by the way. I mean, he was a total nutball. I mean, he was like really ahead of his time, kind of eccentric, smoking, drinking, doing all this like cutting barrels in half to make the arc barrel, big, beer barrels. He was from Germany, but he made his way from Germany to the U.S. when the Nazis started to kind of come into power, and they wanted to recruit him actually because his methods were really well known. And the word on the street was that if you practiced with Joe Pilates, you like didn't get influenza, and you were, like almost superhuman. So he had a big reputation, which is, I think, just so cool because he was so far ahead of his time. In that way, he just was not afraid to put his thoughts and feelings out there about what it took to be truly, truly well, and to what was possible with regard to healing. So, and he studied yoga, of course. He studied animalistic natural movement, children running, moving, So he studied all of these things, and so you can go to Pilates and learn the traditional stuff, and I encourage everyone to at least try that. I think it's a great base as a teacher. I'm so grateful. That's where I started. That I understand the methodology, the foundation, the fundamentals. But I think that there's a lot of different sort of paths that have kind of been carved out. It used to be that people were trying to control this idea that Pilates is I own it now. I worked with Joe Pilates. So I think it was around 2000 that the term Pilates, just to give you guys a little history, I think it was around 2000 that the term Pilates actually became, they went to court, and the federal court decided that it was a wellness practice. So no one could own it. Kind of like the term ballet, like you can't own the term ballet. It's not yours. It's a type of methodology of wellness and fitness. So I say all of this just to show you that there's a lot to it. I mean, there are traditional studios in New York, that people who worked with his predecessors like Ramana and these other very, very famous teachers. So there's a lot of people that believe in that more rigid style. But there's also styles like Stott, the type of Stott studio. Well, you're studying via Stott as well, Ashley, and then also like Balanced Body. And I've just trained in all these different kinds of like biomechanics and various other studios and practices. So sometimes you're going to have studios also that are more biomechanically focused, more like physical therapy. Okay. So I would say that where I teach in like the Back Bay of Boston, we coordinate with pelvic floor specialists. We coordinate with physical therapists. We coordinate with doctors. Because that's the style that we offer, really honing in on specialty populations, like pre and postnatal, like you mentioned, clients with scoliosis or hypermobility, on the more extreme end, like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And then you also just have great, classes. So I group classes and just more of like a workout style of Pilates. So all of that is to say that, yes, Pilates is open to everybody. And it should be. I will say that I think that that has started to change a lot because for a long time, I think the people that thought of Pilates as like, oh, that's the workout for me, kind of look like me, white women of more maybe a privileged background. And that's definitely not, I do not believe that's not what I'm building out, and it's not where I don't believe that's where it's going. I think it's become much more accessible by people being intentional about it being inclusive. But does everyone need Pilates? No, everyone doesn't. They can go and do anything that resonates with them and that feels fun for them. However, there is a lot of benefit to, I think, understanding, especially with modern day society. This is such a long answer, but I'm wrapping here. Modern day society tends to put us in more of a flexed, grounded position. So I do believe that whether it's through yoga, whether it's through dance, Pilates, these are kinds of things that are really important, I think, nowadays, because they make us more aware. They help us to build proprioception, knowing where we are in space, because so much of modern day living takes us out of our bodies, puts us into these kind of question mark shapes. And I'd love to hear more about what you guys think about that. But it's like we almost can't get around it. So I do think it's very relevant what we do. I look around and I think, I'm never going to be out of work, because modern day society really has shaped us and changed us in how we walk through our lives in that way.
I don't know if Mark has any thoughts because I couldn't get him to do Pilates if I paid him. So, I think like when I did my mat training, he maybe did like a single leg stretch to a piece,
Oh, I
but
definitely did. Yes, we can talk about how much you could pay me, and then maybe we can
you
figure something out.
know
He's
what?
like, I'm open to negotiate.
I
Yeah.
know everything has its price. Maybe once my Thursday morning classes start live streaming, then Mark could at least you could have it on while you're getting Zion ready for school and maybe do a couple of things or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I would say, and maybe this is just because I feel very excited as a beginner um, instructor in this way, in this methodology. But I kind of feel like everybody should be doing Pilates. I know you said people don't have to. I know, and you're so nice, but no one generally thinks I'm nice. So I'm going to go against you and I'm going to say I think everyone should do it because of what you said, being rounded forward. And also I think that I've seen a couple of different things that I just wish were different as a teacher. One, I think that people think they're going to fix all their postural issues with like um going to Barry's 6 times a week, right? A lot of our group fitness clients, they tend to take the same classes all the time, every day, 5, 6 days a week, and it's just like you're not you're it has its own use, right? But you ain't about to like be upright, more upright by doing the same shit every day or being on a spin bike every day.
Exactly.
So one, and then two, people believe that not everyone, but a lot of people believe that in order to heal, they have to stop because
Mm.
a lot of old-timey conventional advice is like you got to rest it. And people don't want to. And I think that Pilates is that bridge where like you can still get strong without, you know, um and so like I just yeah, yeah, that's my thought.
You're bringing up something so important there, is that I think Pilates as a kind of a niche practice, which is becoming less and less niche, which I'm really excited about that. It is a bridge. It's a bridge because it's also anaerobic, which is really important. So in that regard, I think it's so special and unique because I think anyone can really, as long as they are, they're cleared by their doctor. There's certain things, obviously, I would wait until someone was out of chemo and on the mend. I've got clients that have done that, that are breast cancer survivors, for example. And they have to wait and they go through and we coordinate the timing with their doctor and then they come in and they can absolutely do it because guess what? You can have some stuff going on with your shoulder, but you can still get onto the reformer and you can breathe. You can do your core work. You can do your footwork. You can work on your legs. There's almost nothing, and I tell that to clients all the time. I've got a client now who is going through recovering from a cancer scare, and she's doing great. And I just said, I can almost work with anything with her, and she's been doing for Pilates quite a long time. But we can almost come in and there is a physical therapy component to it. It is restorative. It does get you to focus on all the smaller stuff, which often is what helps the body to optimize its healing process. Breathing deeply, relaxation. We don't heal when we're in flight or fight mode, right? We heal when we're in rest and restore mode. And how do we get there? We get there by relaxing. And how do we do that? We have to breathe. Because if we're not breathing well deeply, and I mean diaphragmatic breathing, right? And if we're not doing that, the body tends to be in a constant state of heightened kind of cortisol levels, heightened awareness. I teach clients this actually, and in yoga they do teach some of this, I believe, as well. But we teach when we're building proprioception, we teach to actually feel and notice and observe your peripheral vision. Because when we're not focusing on what's directly in front of us, our body senses that we're not in danger. We can actually relax. There's nothing right in front of me that I need to be worried about. And so actually cueing proprioceptive awareness, right, and understanding that I can watch my legs as I'm moving, if I'm laying doing leg circles or if I'm relaxing, I can actually start to tap into what's out here. And this actually was it rocked me the first time I really paid attention to that. My back started to relax. I felt my belly naturally expanding more when I was breathing. Wild, right? It was crazy. So there's so many things that we can do as a way of realigning and restoring our body. And I think you're 1,000% right that it just gives you a way to, you don't have to stop necessarily, but you just have to change and shift gears and change your approach a little bit, which I think people benefit from. My grandfather always taught me that variety is the spice of life.
Right.
My father's side of the family is Lebanese, so I always got these beautiful nuggets from him. He taught me how to pick out like fresh fruits and vegetables. He would always bring over like yogurt covered almonds from the like natural food store. My mom was like, yes, like think carob, no chocolate, like carob and things and stuff like that. But he was so sweet. So he would always say, everything in moderation, and variety is the spice of life. And so I loved that because he lived a really long life living like that, eating whole foods mostly, just getting out and enjoying, having fun. And so I think that that's the same thing with fitness and wellness from my perspective. And it sounds like you're kind of you feel along those same lines too, And so I love it for that, filling in the gaps.
Yes.
Okay, right? Small muscles, big muscles, right? Macro to the micro. I think Pilates is a place where you can really safely explore what that means in your body.
I have like almost a two-part question to that, right? So
We're all long for you
I
today.
think
Long questions.
yeah,
Bring it up.
I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very clear about those things that have shaped you. Those things you've learned, been exposed to. I'd be interested to understand, what's the biggest thing that you've had to unlearn that has been just as transformative in this journey? And then the second part of that would be, for a non-Pilates practitioner, I just listen to all of this and there's all these lessons that transcend the practice, right? So in the practice of unlearning, you know, um, like what's the greater lesson there for all of us that may not be Pilates instructors and might be inspired to be someday, or just love to get your perspective on that.
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. I think that probably the biggest thing I've had to unlearn is that like working myself to death, like working myself until I'm nauseous. So I was a basketball player. That was my first like real kind of introduction into sports, fitness, wellness wasn't, whatever. I grew up in a time where like we went to the YMCA, like smelly old YMCA, where it's like, oh, everybody went there. Everybody of all ages, all different backgrounds. We just go to the gym. It smelled awful, like, like old socks and just like my dad would go there and play basketball every day at noon, and everyone would go. And it was just great because it was such a community feeling space. But I grew up, with this idea in sports that like, if you weren't, I remember the first time I ever did Pilates, I was like, I feel just kind of normal. Like I'm breathing, I'm not sweating, I don't feel nauseous. Like I'm gonna, because in basketball, oh man, you just would run until you're basically, and I walked on to my college team for a
Right.
year. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I made the team and we would just run ourselves into the ground. I mean, and we would just like do our sprints, lift, like we worked out like 3 times a day. So for me, I was like, I had to unlearn that. I had to unravel that concept. And I'm still working on that. Let's be honest here, guys. Like my tendency is to work myself kind of into an oblivion, and I love what I do. So that's really, really hard, it's challenging. It's not impossible. It's just, it takes awareness. So I would say that probably realizing that, there's a sweet spot between pushing and pulling or giving and receiving. that there's like, and it's very different for everybody. So some people can crush, 6 hard workouts a week and they feel amazing. It fills their cup. They feel awesome. But as I've learned getting into my 30s and 40s, I can't. I have to actually take days off. So like a good week of workouts for me might be like 4 really rigorous workouts, and then taking a walk. And taking a day off. I take a nap instead of going to the gym. And so I'd say that's the biggest thing. And I think that balance is probably my biggest takeaway. So balance, and obviously, I don't train the same way now. I'm 45 years old. I don't train like I did when I was 25. Hallelujah. Thank God. It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
do I want to live beyond 50? Yes. So I just have had to really shift gears. I think there's so much wisdom in that. I think it's actually very exciting to think about what listening to your body, like what is your body trying to tell you and such. I know Ashley and I talk about this all the time, and it's different every week because the mental thing that I have still kind of going is like, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
You're not giving enough. You're not
Yeah.
doing enough. Why can't you squeeze that client into your schedule? But at the end of the day, what I'm learning now is that self-care, and I know that's such a cliche term that's getting thrown around so much now, but like true, deep, loving care for the self, for the inner soul and the outer body that we're blessed to be in. It's just like, it's such a dynamic experience of trying to do just enough so that you're in that happy kind of medium kind of zone. And yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from,
I love that. Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you so much. And the point I'm just going to make when I listen to you talk about, this love for yourself and self-care and how that is just as important, I have to connect the dot, right, to a lot of the data out there around empathy in organizations, right? Which is when you have empathy for each other, innovation goes up because you create the space, right? When you have empathy for yourself, it's the same thing, right? I think there's an innovation, a creativity, a solve for the soul almost, right? That occurs when you learn to recalibrate what quote unquote excellence looks like. And it's not about just how hard you work.
Oh, 1,000%. That is so well put. Because actually, I think sometimes I actually think the less that you do, the better it gets. Like the more nourished you are. And again, I know you can't. There's these just talking about it. Sometimes it's hard for it to not sound like a little bit like a cliche, but when you walk through that and you actually choose yourself first, and you make yourself a big pot of like delicious bone broth soup that I've been doing a lot lately because I'm just like, I need nourishment. I need it. Like if I don't prep it for myself, I'm going to end up eating a handful of nuts, like on the fly, and I'm going to crash. So I'm just like, those like little things like that go a really long way. And it doesn't have to be that. That's just my life. Everyone, we all have our own stuff going on. We all are busy. We've got children or we've got commitments and things. But I think that it's just like little bits like that that go a really, really long way. Getting enough sleep. Oh my God. That one is major. So just like prioritizing sleep instead of staying up and just kind of like, so there's just like little stuff like that that really makes such a huge difference. And you really feel it, and
Right.
you have to keep choosing yourself. You
Yes.
know?
It makes me think, this podcast started as and will remain as primarily a social justice oriented space. And like that is, it just makes me think of my activism as it's in a season of change and has been for, a few years now. But I think that was the one of the pieces that I think I needed to learn and internalize, like embody this idea that I'm pouring from the overflow, not giving resources that I don't have, right? Because I care about people and I care about the world we live in and I want to be of service to that. And I also have to remember that caring for myself is a part of that service. And caring for Mark as his wife is a part of that service. And not forgetting about my child, right? Like my child is not like a little puppy in a handbag, right? He's a full human who is a part of my legacy and a part of my activism. And, that I took a risk even bringing into this world and had a hard time even doing that, right? So like I I thought that I needed to do so much more outside of myself. And what I'm learning is that it's just like this ebb and flow of like sometimes I'm able to give a little bit more because I have a little bit more to give. And other times I give not a goddamn thing because because I've got bags under my eyes
I
and my
got zero.
skin is
Yeah.
shriveled. It's like I got nothing left. I'm dehydrated and I just need to be under the covers. And I think what you're also
Yeah, totally. I love it. Yeah.
you're also normalizing
Yeah.
that like that's, you know, you're both older than me. Um, and so you're normalizing that like this is the flow of a regular life, of a good life, of if you're lucky, you really do get to care for yourself. And then that overflows out into other people in many capacities. And I just want to make sure people hear that because things feel so dire for so many. And we don't gloss over that. And we still try to find a way to like not sit in the fear or the worry, whatever it is. We do our best, even if it's soup, even if it's sleep, even if it like those things matter so much. And we sometimes think that they don't, you know?
Yeah. I really believe we're in a really pivotal time right now too. I I've always had, I think, a little bit more of a futuristic vision. I love the micro kind of stuff, the day to day, the week to week. But I truly believe, and this may resonate with some people and it may not, and that's okay. I genuinely believe that we are at a pivotal point right now, and this is, astrologically supported. I'm really into astrology, and I've really gotten more and more into it as I've understood the science of it more and more. Um, I think we're in a place right now where we are, as a collective, really starting to tap into and understand the power um, of caring for the self. That it's not, that actually it is the number one job, I believe, that we are here to do, is to understand how to care for ourselves and then care for others. And then not before ourselves. And I think what I believe and what I've experienced a lot in the past year is understanding and sort of healing this kind of trauma of past generations. And that could go way, way back, depending on what your perspective is on that.
Mhm.
And so I think right now, I think it's almost this revolutionary thing to care for yourself without worrying what anyone else is going to think, or without worrying that somehow you choosing yourself is selfish, especially for women. Okay, because I grew up with a lot of that, and it's a huge. I still in therapy today still are like, oh my gosh, I feel so guilty. Like I'm letting go of like years and years and probably lifetimes of feeling guilty about wanting something better for myself. And so I love the bravery of this kind of conversation
I love
of
that.
wherever it comes up, because I'm just like, we have got to together, by talking about it, by feeling it together, by holding space for each other, that it's safe and it's actually vital for us as a community here in Massachusetts, in the United States, in the bigger world at large, that we all start taking better care of ourselves and listening to ourselves. Because I believe when that starts to happen more and more and more, that ripple effect is unstoppable. That when people are happy, joyful, healthy, that's where I feel my work is in this lifetime, that I am learning how to take care of me so that I can be a beacon and a guide for helping people to heal in whatever that looks like for them, right? I'm not here to judge that in any way, shape, or form, and I don't know everything. I'm here to co-create and to be there as a safe space for people to just let whatever comes up come up, and it's okay. So I think there's all different avenues of healing, but I think you're completely right. And I think this is the kind of conversation that we're helping to normalize just by having this conversation today. That little stone that you throw out into the lake, it has ripple effect, and that's what this stuff does. It creates a ripple, and I do believe that the arc of the universe is towards well-being. I believe that we're all heading, and I think I've been listening to this wonderful book that Ashley, you got me going with. It's by Esther and Jerry Hicks. It's the Teachings of Abraham. It's all about the law of attraction. Right.
Ask
Yes. And asking it is given. We'll have to. I've got it. I'm listening to an audio. That's why I don't have it right here. But yeah, asking it is given. It's all about the law of attraction. And I what they say within that book is that basically whether you resist it or whether you flow with it, that the natural energies that are here on this planet is an energy of well-being. So what I believe is that we've all been sort of conditioned and taught for a long, long time to resist that, to feel guilt, to feel shame, over our bodies, over how we show up, our light, and we've been all been very dimmed and taken down, down, down. And I think what's happening now is that bit by bit, we are peeling back those layers, we're healing those traumas, and it's going to be very exciting to be in a world. And I know this is probably hard for some people. When we look around, I think what my goal right now is to not get stuck in what is here right now, but to realize that I am a creator, I'm a co-creator, just like you guys are with the universe, and that we can create something different. So it's just bit by bit creating something different. And I think that can unfold in so many different ways,
And I think too, like just, and Mark, I'm sure you have something you want to say, and please do. But I also think that that is too a part of social justice. So if somebody's uncomfortable with what you're saying, or if they disagree, or whatever it is, part of the work is staying regulated, right? When someone says something that goes against maybe what you've always believed or what you feel currently, and you can't do that without well-being, right? The whole thing, what we're seeing online and in a lot of cases in the world, it's people are dysregulated, people are unwell, people are unable to hold space for difference. They're unable to face, history, things that have already been done, like already documented. It's done. We don't have to pretend like it doesn't exist. We can move forward, right? But like, so if someone's uncomfortable, good. Let them reckon with that. Like that is a part of the work of wellness and of activism. Like it's literally where they intersect.
Yeah.
And so I think that thank you for saying your truth, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for saying it
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. The other thing that I took away from what you were just saying is I think we're all creators. I think part of the recognition of the evolution is, we've created societies that become a little subservient either to others or to the culture, right? And we forget that we all have agency and we can all be creators. And then you overlay that with the paradox that you just explained. There were three of them that we've talked about so far, right? This whole paradox that if you're not working your ass off, you're lazy,
Mhm.
right? If you are caring for yourself, you're selfish, right? If you're not throwing maximum weight around 6 days a week, you're not working hard enough, right? And just think about, like, really, if we think about longevity and how to elevate a culture, it is about balance, right? It is about hard work and creating space for yourself and prioritizing yourself so you can serve others better, right? So I just love that whole arc.
Mm, yeah, I do too. And it is, we're meant to be having fun.
Yeah.
We're meant
God
to be having fun.
forbid. Like,
Right, we're meant to be having,
imagine.
I had this really cool experience actually. This was such a long time ago now. I was so blessed to go, and I had this wonderful yoga teacher here in Boston. And he's a Buddhist, and he was hosting this workshop with this lama, right, who's a religious, like a monk, a figure, and he was coming in and he was going to offer some of his teachings to us. And at the time I was like, oh, I really want to go. There's no way I can afford to do this, And so I talked to him because there were a couple spots, like, assistant kind of a situation where you'd go basically help set the studio up and then break everything down at the end. And I was like, yes, if I can do this and do that, I don't care, just whatever, tell me what to do. So I got to go, and we all got to go up and stand. His name is Lama Migmar, and Lama Migmar saw so the energy, the level of the level of peace in his energy was so amazing. So we all stood in a little line, and we all walked up, and he had a little sheet, a little piece of paper for all of us, and he would sit with us and he would just look at us, and then he would write down the essence of us, the essence of what we were as a person. And he wrote down joyful goddess. That's what he wrote for me. And I still have it somewhere, like tucked in a little box. I'm like, I'm never throwing that away. And I've lived most of my adult life diminishing my joy, like not living, mostly because I was just killing myself with work and always striving to make sure that everyone around me was happy with how I was acting, how I was behaving, how I was, showing up. And so I think this is so exciting because when I think about when I read books like the teachings of Abraham, the law of attraction, they're like, you guys are supposed to be having fun, this is supposed to be joyful and fun. And it always makes me think of that whenever I hear that word joy. So it's like we are creators, Mark. We all are. It's almost like, again, wellness is flowing. It's, are you resisting it, or are you inviting it in? Are you flowing, right? You are a creator. Sorry to break it to you. You're
Right.
creating, okay?
Right.
But are you creating on purpose, or are you creating by like default? So I think that's where most of, I think, us are on like kind of autopilot. And so,
Yes.
Ash and I have been talking about this like all, like every time I get together, or every time we
Oh
talk,
yeah, we're
it's like we're
nonstop.
always thinking about like these thoughts, like shifting gears. And I think that is the most powerful thing. First and foremost, it's like just pay attention to what's running in the background. And if you need help, therapy is great. Let's, let's just, that there's no stigma there in my mind. It's like we all need help. So I just like Ashley, I know class was hard, but it's nice to be in the realm where you're the student. It's nice to be in therapy where I'm getting the help. We all need that. And I don't think anyone's got it all figured out, or we wouldn't be here, right? In this kind of incarnation. That's my opinion. I think we all have evolving to do. Like I think we all can go higher. So that's what's exciting about all of it to me, is that I think there's like a lot of joy and fun and pleasure and excitement and creation that we have the capacity for.
Right.
And so right now we're all kind of, I mean, everyone's at their own pace. There's like, we're all completely different, and some people will get it and be like, oh yes, that's so true. Other people are like, that is crazy. That's okay. We're all completely at different levels with it, and that's on purpose, like we're in school.
Mhm.
So it's exciting in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to ask you, like, as we, start to wrap this episode, but along that vein, then, like, what are you building? What's your legacy?
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, my legacy is to be a healer and a teacher. So I think my greatest challenge with regards to my true kind of evolution here, so that I can really genuinely be of service to the greater good, is to work on myself, self-care, self-love, self-healing. Um, you said it beautifully, Ashley, but it's about giving from the overflow, not take. I've lived most of my adult life giving until I was fully depleted, and then I would basically crash and burn and have to like piece it back together, and I would just go back out and do the same thing again, right? It's like burning at both ends. So my legacy is to teach, to offer safe space for people to show up as they are. I really genuinely believe it's the greatest service that I can personally provide is to show up authentically. So as someone who is healing, I'm not perfect. I'm not healed. Okay. I'm on the journey too. But I really think it's so cool for me to show up, do the work for myself, so that I'm showing up authentically to help hold space for people to become more comfortable in their own bodies, to understand that you don't have to be any particular way to be. For well-being it's for everybody. It's our natural state. And so the more I learn that for myself, the more excited I am to hold that well-being space for others. And I genuinely believe that the Unfold method is that's where we're going. It's a holding a beautiful, safe kind of container for people to come in as they are and to get what they need.
I love that. And I will just, you know, say that that's certainly what you do for me, right? Like you definitely, you know, you're like, I know you're busy and I know you have your husband and your child, but like you kind of remind me, and I think I do it for myself well too, but you do put that you do make sure it kind of doesn't leave the forefront of my focus, and I am lucky that Mark is not an a-hole as some husbands are. That
Thank you.
he
Yeah.
yes, that he wants that for me as well. And he also understands that it serves the ecosystem as the family as well. So it's in service of everything, right? And I know not everyone has what I have. And I recognize that. And, and we're all working towards, like you said, just that kind of like to me it's kind of like a spiral. Like it doesn't shoot straight up like a rocket, but it's almost like this little marble that like moves slowly up and you're kind of like in the same spot for a while, but then it like kind of goes up.
You're moving up. You're moving up, right? It's like
Yeah, it's moving
slowly and
up.
steadily, right? The elevator is rising, and it's just so fun. I love that, and I love. I don't know if Mark realized, but I shared one of Ashley's stories that I just loved. I love what she was talking about, and she was like, "Huh, wait, what? That's me on my." And I was like, "Yeah, did you forget that you're a total inspiration?" I didn't.
I'm
So
like, oh yeah, I guess I did.
we all
I
benefit. Yeah, we all are. We're all in it together.
Mm,
So
for sure.
we are moving up slowly and steadily. We all are. But I think when we start to realize the level of power that we do have, and I mean power in its most raw and like natural state, goodness, love, that purity of power. I think when we realize that, oh, then everything can really start to shift for the better. And it is the most powerful thing, I believe, to work on yourself. The better you are, the better your vibration, and it truly ripples out from there because then you're calling in better stuff into your life. And so I love it. It's just a very exciting, crazy as it seems. I'm a true optimist, and I do believe that we are. And actually, I'm very excited that we're alive right now because I think we have a lot of power to help shift this to a dramatically better place.
Mark, anything from
One
you? I
hundred.
know.
Like, how
Just
do
like,
I, how
how do
do
you?
I like add anything to that? That's the, kind of mic drop moment. So
It does. It just it
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
much of the narrative is like, oh my God, how the fuck are we surviving right now? And then you have this person being like, no, like it is a gift to be alive right now and to be able to shift something, right? Like, and you could do that by shifting yourself. Like that is the starting point. Like that's such a great place to be in because so many people feel powerless. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You don't need to be the fucking president with your hand on the
Right,
button in
right,
order to do
right,
something.
Right.
right,
And
right,
honestly, I
right.
mean, and I know we're starting to wrap up here, but I if people could see where I was even like a year and a half ago, in a very toxic relationship, going through and walking through, that I made choices to move myself through that, and I had a ton of support. And I think when I it's really changed how I sort of experience people, looking at people and thinking I don't know what they're going through. So instead, knowing how, because I know that I kept working all the way through this very traumatic relationship experience, and people showed up, and I don't think people knew, had any clue that I was suffering a lot during that time, and so I think it's really a wonderful thing to remember also that instead of making judgments, trying to shift more to curiosity,
Yes.
and asking questions
Yeah,
and trying to remember that if we're here in these human bodies, we chose to be here, and we all have struggles and we all have things. And I think one of the other like legacy points I would say to answer that previous question is to be a bridge to try to find more of the commonalities. I think it's always been a huge passion of mine. I've always been curious, traveling, reading about different cultures, experiencing different cultures. Such a blessing to be able to travel from a fairly young age. And I think that finding the commonalities and focusing on commonalities is also, I think, the way that we can start, like you said, Ashley, so beautifully. Like we're not ignoring the history. We're not ignoring people's suffering. We're not pretending it didn't happen. God no. But I believe that we can use that to enrich who we are and honor it in one another and then move forward to create something different. So I think that's a huge part of the legacy I hope to create as well via my practice.
You're already doing it, so we're just going to keep going up from here.
exactly, exactly.
Do you
Amazing.
want to, Mark, do you have anything before I ask Eliza to, okay.
I, I'm good.
Will you one more time share with us all of your websites and handles and everywhere that people can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, great. So my website is unfold with Eliza, all one word.com. And then unfold with Eliza is also my handle on Instagram. So you can find me there. I am also on LinkedIn. You can just Google my name there, Eliza Nimon. And that's pretty much it for social media, but really every which way to Sunday is on my website. So they're all there, and that's the easiest place to go to find me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying yes
Thank
to
you.
this. Thank
Oh,
you
thank you
for
guys for asking me.
just being a part of our community. Now you're in Mark's life as well, which is great. We need to get him on a reformer.
We will.
He can
But
experience or you can even go without me. Like I trust Eliza
crazy
so
talk.
much that like I don't some people I'm like, oh God, I need to be there because this person's crazy. But I think
No,
you
yeah,
should
we will
go.
definitely figure it out because it's worth experiencing at least once, at
Yes.
least once just so you can feel
We're
it. Because
gonna
I know
do it.
you
We're
guys are
gonna
both
do it.
such athletes as well. And I think if you're with martial arts, I think it's such a beautiful complement to probably what you've already experienced with your martial arts background as
Right.
well.
All
So I
right.
think that's really cool for you, Mark.
I'm
Yeah.
in. I'm
We'll make
in.
it happen. We'll make it happen. Thank you so much, you guys. This was
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure.
We appreciate you. All right,
Sure.
everybody, make sure you find Eliza, follow Eliza, book Eliza, take Eliza's classes, all of the things. Yes. Yes. And she's so wonderful with boundaries. Like if you're getting on her nerves, she'll just move on. She's so great. But no, please hit her up and you trust me, you're gonna want to work with her and talk to her and all of the things. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, like it, leave a comment, a rating, all of the things that just helps elevate the work and the word so we can keep this going, surpassing that 25,000 download mark and counting
Yeah.
69 countries we're in.
Yes. Yeah.
So, let's just keep going.
Keep going. Love it.
Yes. All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.